Rumbe mechanja, sauti soli na dieri ya kumechacha. Karibuni kwenye extravaganza. Alifunika wakaja nao. Hey guys, that's such a nice song. I love that song, man. I love that song by Sauti Sol. I hope they will not copyright me for putting it in the beginning of this video and having fun. And you know, I have to raise my vibration before I do this video so that I feel good, I feel ready, I feel happy, I feel joyful when I'm giving you this information. Otherwise, guys, welcome once again to Ken's Money Matters, and here as usual we talk about the money mindset, how to make that money, how to manage that money, how to enjoy that money, how to invest that money, and how to assure yourself of a lifetime of income, financial freedom. So this is the second part of a video. Let me just put this straight. So this is the second part of the video I've been doing on pensions, and I told you earlier that someone asked for this video. If you know you have some information or you want me to talk about something specific, you can always come to me and ask me, and then I'll find a way of, you know, making it informative and making it include everyone else. So someone asked about pension covers, but I decided let me just first of all tackle the whole of pension thing, the whole of pension subject, before I go into the best covers you can have in Kenya. So that's very important. So I decided to cover the ground first. I don't just give you things that are flying around and you don't understand what's happening. So I give you the ground. What's pension? You know, what are some of the misconceptions? What are some of the ideas? What are some of the stereotypes about pension, and why should you have it? And then we go into types of covers you may want to have in the future and some of the best in Kenya. So this is part 2 of the video I've been doing on pensions, and now we're going to look at who can save up for pension. So I'm going to be answering different questions about pension. Basically, every single thing you want to know about pension. So anyone can save up for pension. And I always say that the earlier you begin, the better it is for you. And the best advantage people have with regards to investing, which pension is part of, is time. If you have enough time to invest, if you have enough time to save for your pension, you're likely to make more money. So make sure that you have enough time on your side. So that means you have to start as early as possible. So most people always wait until it's too late to start thinking about pension, and therefore they become a burden to their parents, they become a burden to their children, or they become a burden to the people around them. But this is something that you can do over time. So I always say, as long as you're an adult, you should start thinking about pension. Anyone above 18 years of age should start thinking about saving for pension. And there's so many platforms through which you can save for pension. So we have the normal, the NSSF, which is, you know, open to everyone who is working. And then we have others which have been very private, like Mobikiza, which is also open to informal sectors. So like I said earlier in my video, if you haven't watched that video, please watch it before you watch this one. I did say that pension is open to every single person. There's no one who can say they cannot save for pension. It doesn't matter what you're doing, you can save for pension. So that's a very important point. It's also important for people to understand that pension is not only for those who are employed. Pension is for every single person. The informal sector, if you're working for yourself, if you're working for someone, you can get pension. You can get a pension scheme. There are so many pension schemes that are registered with the Retirement Benefits Authority. So make sure whatever you're doing, don't wait until you have a permanent contract for you to start saving for pension. That's another malarkey that people get into. So make sure you start as soon as possible. So first of all, start as soon as possible, and 2, anyone can save for pension. So how do you set up a pension plan? So for one, if you are employed, of course, you want to talk to your employer and get to know what do their employees use, what do their staff use. So they could be contributing to NSSF or another kind of pension plan. Ask them and get to know which one they use. If they do not have any specific one, again, you can ask them which one is more predominant with their members. So if you're employed, you have many options here. So feel free to always inquire. The moment you start a job and you have your contract ready, make sure you ask about the pension contributions and the pension plan in the company. That's number one. If you're not employed, of course, there are so many other pension schemes which we call self-invested pension schemes. They are all registered. All these pension schemes are registered by the Retirement and Benefits Authority, and you have to ensure that they are actually registered, because again, you don't want to be registering to a scam. So make sure you check the history, you check the details about it before you register and start contributing money towards your pension. So that's very important. So whether you're employed or not employed, you can either go to the private ones or you can follow the ones that your employers are using. So again, that's a very simple process, and I will do a video on the best pension curves. So when it comes to accessing of pension, people do ask should they access the pension. Of course, it comes at the right time. First of all, there's an age limit to these pensions. It depends on what you set when you're registering. Some private pensions always say that, okay, you must register and say at this particular age you'll start accessing it. So you only access it at that particular age that you have agreed. Number two, you can access your pension, of course, when you resign, when you declared redundant, when you terminated, when you actually retire officially. And these ones usually are with the NSSF and, of course, the other main pension schemes. So, of course, the conditions under which you get your pension are dependent on the laws of the government and dependent on the pension scheme you're using and the contract you sign when you're starting to contribute to your pension scheme. So just make sure you know the contract. If you want to access your pension at any point, make sure you put that clearly when you're getting your contract and ask if that's available, because some people want to access their pension much earlier or much later. So again, you must have an agreement with your pension scheme and let them give you the different options they have. But I do know that they also have to follow the government rules when it comes to pension schemes. Again, I wouldn't actually encourage someone to withdraw their pension before the time they are meant to withdraw it based on the government laws, simply because of the tax advantages. So the moment you withdraw it earlier, chances are you'll be paying very high taxes on that withdrawal, and they will fine you for withdrawing it earlier. So try not to withdraw that pension so early. Try to withdraw it at the right time whereby the government supports you to withdraw it, because there are tax advantages to any pension savings. Again, check my video on ways of avoiding tax, the legal ways of avoiding tax, so that you know which are some of these ways you can always avoid tax legally if you're an investor or you're working or basically just trying to manage your money. Again, most people always ask the riskiness of the pension schemes and how these funds are invested. Again, I always say, make sure you know when you go to a pension scheme, make sure they give you the details of the pension, the details of the fund, so that you know who is the fund manager, how they're investing your money, especially the personal pension plans. You should at least know. Most of the time, like in the UK where I live and in the US, because I deal with so many people from the US, I know that it's very possible to always know what is included in your fund. Like in the 401k in the US, they have what is called the 401k for their pensions, and you are allowed to actually know the funds that your money is invested in. Same thing in the UK, I can determine which funds I want to invest in, or if I don't determine them, I will get to know. I have that information. So it is important to always ask the pension scheme you are registered with to get to know where is this money invested, because sometimes you are not comfortable with certain investments and therefore you won't choose that particular pension scheme or that plan or that company. So just make sure that you know where the funds are invested, and this is usually included in what we call the policy book or whatever document they give you to show what you're doing with them. So that's very important. Get to know where it's invested, but most of the time it's very, very minimal. The risk here is very minimal. You will not lose your money unless, of course, the whole thing goes down. But if you make sure you register with one that has a good history, it's registered with the RBA and has some good membership and some good referrals, and there are no issues around it. Just make sure it doesn't have drama around it. Most of the time, your pensions are quite safe. Of course, with NSSF, it's like government backed since 1964. It's been there, it's always going to be there, so that's much, much safer. But if you have these other private pension plans and pension schemes, just make sure you know more about it before you actually start contributing your money. But most of them are quite steady, most of them are quite stable, and you will always get your money back. So how much do you get when you retire? Again, this is something I always talk about, and I always say do not depend on government pension. It's so minimal. It's basically a dismal number. It won't help you. It won't retain your living standard as you're working. So I always say, however much you have the NSSF, sometimes automatically through your employer, try and have your own personal plans, because there's no way 2,000 or 5,000 Kenya shillings will sustain you and give you the kind of life you've been having when you're working and when you're energetic and younger. So again, make sure that you know all these details so you start early. That's very important. And again, have your own plan. Now, people ask how much they're going to get. It depends, of course, on the pension plan you have. Some people buy what we call annuities as their pension plan. So basically, they have some contracts with insurance companies to pay them some money when they do retire. And of course, they will pay differently. And that could be their pension plan. You see, pension plan can be different. That's why it's called a plan. It depends on what you choose. What plan do you choose? Again, if you're just contributing towards your pension, it depends how much are you contributing. And what are the investments that company is making, and what are the returns, because you will get your money plus the interest rates. So that's extremely important to do. And I always tell people, make sure that you know how much you're likely to get when you retire. So don't just contribute blindly because there's a base of how much is required of you to contribute, or there's a match by your employer and therefore you're just trying to match that amount. Just make sure you actually know how much you're likely to get when you do retire, so that you can start planning your life and the standard of life you're gonna have at the time. So again, this is very dependent on how much you're contributing, the investments that the company is making, the interest rates, and how long you're going to be contributing it for. Again, you can always come to me if you want to make any decision with regards to this. So people also do ask, what happens to this money in case you die? In case you die, what happens is you always have to appoint a beneficiary or a next of kin when you're registering for a pension scheme, and this way someone will definitely get the money in case of death. So always make sure that when you're doing that contract, you have the next of kin or a beneficiary written down. Could be your mom, your wife, your spouse, or your child. It doesn't matter who it is, but make sure you have someone who you want to have that money in case of anything. We never know what happens the next day. We all here for just a period of time, as human beings. So just be ready for everything. Don't assume or don't say, oh, I won't die or anything. Just have that there so the money doesn't have to go to the government after we working so hard for it. So these are some of the questions people do ask about pensions. I hope I've covered them in the past video and this video, every single thing you want to know about pension. Now in my next video, which will come later, I will do a good research on some of the best pension covers of the companies that you want to invest with. Otherwise guys, thank you so much, and I don't want to make this video long. I also have coaching lessons, I have training, I have forex trading, so all these things. If you feel free to come and talk to me about finance and investments, comment below, please share and like the video, and subscribe if you're not subscribed yet for more of such contents. Thank you. Back to my music.